So at some point, you have to entertain that conversation. And they are by no means the most talented offense in football. They by no means should be the best offense in football because they've shown no evidence of it.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Moving a couple days removed now from the Eagles' Week 10 win over the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. And a whole lot of drama, a whole lot of things to talk about today. We'll have two great guests for you today and a full 2-hour show with plenty to talk about. Topics including A.J. Brown, Jaire Alexander, the offense, the defense, and much more. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning?
Doing well. Yeah, it's always something. Always something with this team. My God. My God. Could you imagine if they lost games? What a shit show it would be.
Yeah, it really would be.
They actually win. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So for the people who don't know, John, not everybody, I'm sure, is serially online like we have to be sometimes to cover the team. A.J. Brown was on a stream with Janky Rondo. I know many of our viewers know
Janky Rondo.
He's
Come
awesome.
on, A.J.
He's awesome, Janky. I know he's not your type, obviously, but this dude is so.
I don't know. I've never been on Twitch in my freaking life.
Yeah, I don't go on Twitch, but I do know Janky Rondo. He's funny, but AJ's good friends with him, and he was on there with Janky Rondo, and Janky asked him everything good, and he said, "No, where have you been? Family's good. Everything else, no, it's a shit show. You want some? How you been? I'm struggling, brother." And then there was another clip from the same stream where, he was playing Madden with Janky. And he put up 170 yards, 9 catches, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then he says, "That's about the only football highlights I'm getting this year." So A.J. Brown has now made some more headlines this week, not in the form of a social media post, but in the form of a stream with Janky Rondo.
Janky Rondo.
Yeah. John, what do you think, man? What do you think about this?
Gotta stop it, AJ. I love you, dude. I think he knows he watches the show sometimes, and I'm appreciative of that. Gotta stop it.
Man,
stop it.
I'll let you talk about this. I want you to elaborate on your thoughts before I check in here.
Look, he's 100% right. The offense is a shit show. It's a mess. It's a disaster. And I'm talking about the passing offense, particularly. Mm-hmm. The running offense has been ineffective. And that's the problem. And this is not new. Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday, and I told you before we jumped on the air here, I did go back. They had 7 worse passing games last season than they had in Green Bay. 7. This is not new. This has been going on for a very, very long time. So that part of it, I don't understand why people get. Well, I do, because they won the Super Bowl, so nobody cares at the end of the day. But it didn't make the problem go away. And the problem, it's again, the passing offense as a whole this season has been better, believe it or not, than last season. But it's still a shit show, and there's no doubt about it. It's awful. And when we talk about the talent, which, at some point you have to entertain the conversation that it might be a little bit overrated. Bottom line. Because people just say that. They just say it. Well, there's no way this is the best offense in the NFL, best playmakers, best talent. Should be best talent. At some point, you got to entertain the fact, especially on this week with Detroit coming in. You know what? They have better offensive talent. Period. They might not be a better team, but they have better offensive talent.
Do they have better offensive talent, or do they utilize their offensive talent better?
Well, both.
Okay.
They have better offensive talent. Because to me, that depends. Like, you can talk about the greatest traits guy from the combine or the greatest traits guy in any sport, NBA, whatever. They're rarely the best player. Rarely. When the two meet, you really get something special. like a Michael Jordan, LeBron James, etc., when the two meet, which is very, very rare, usually the most gifted person is not the best player. Usually. So at some point, you have to entertain that conversation. And they are by no means the most talented offense in football. They by no means should be the best offense in football because they've shown no evidence of it at any point to be at that level. So that's where I would reconfigure things right off the bat. But getting things back to AJ, I get why he's frustrated. And the 4th and 6 play, I hate the term rogue. That was going around yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, you either want him to have some autonomy at the line of scrimmage or you don't.
Yeah, and that's just a bad decision by Jalen and AJ.
It is, but my point on that was like, again, you either want them to have some autonomy or you don't. If they have it and they make that call, it's a bad decision, but you're going to take the good with the bad. They're not going to make every good decision.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that you have to understand the situation. And Nick's the guy. I think people think they want Nick to bury people, but if he did bury people, I think they would hate it. But clearly he's not calling that play on 4th and 6, or Kevin Patullo's not calling that play.
Yeah.
So, changing the play and taking that shot. And if it works, everybody's happy and everybody's, oh, they're great and this and that. No, it's still a stupid decision in the situation, the time, the game management. And that's why the coaching staff and Nick comes off looking like a goofball. And you got to protect your players, and that's what you should do as a coach. But the offense as a whole, there's this, and I've been talking about it and this is the NFL as a whole, because I mentioned my respect for defensive coaches, starting with Vic, but a lot of defensive coaches. I like defensive coaches better than I like offensive coaches. And the reason why is because offensive coaches have every advantage. They try to gimmick the rule book to help the offense, not the defense. And these defensive coaches go, all right, you screwed us again. Let's figure out how to deal with it. And how they figured it out is havoc plays. And that's what people call just the all-out jailhouse blitz shit, where you're bringing more people than they can block. And it creates, sometimes you leave yourself open on the back end. There's a lot of people that do it poorly. There's a lot of people who do it well. There's a lot of people, most people are in the middle, like everything else in life. But what it does is create ugliness on the offense. It creates ugliness. And the Eagles are really bad at handling that and seeing that ugliness. Usually, like Minnesota, they were great. But that's an outlier. They're really, really bad at it. Most teams are bad at it. And that's why defense, and there's always, to every action, there's a reaction. And that's been the reaction of defensive coaches to try to deal with the handcuffs they placed on them. All right, you're going to do this. The adage in the NFL is you either get the quarterback, meaning get the big time quarterback, or get to the quarterback, meaning affect him, and then he can potentially win the game. And that's how the defenses around this league, not just here, everywhere, has sort of morphed into, or at least more. And I think the Eagles have a really difficult time handling that havoc that is being created. And they do get more unscouted looks than everybody. That's part of being the Super Bowl champions. Everybody's giving you their best shot. All of that is true. My lot has told me multiple times they prepare for what happens on the film, like all coaching staffs, and then they show up on game day and they're doing something else because it's the champions and they're trying to throw every curveball they got, and they're not handling it well. But last year, the only difference between this season, last season, is they had the crutch of the running game. And now that's gone. And now it looks uglier. as I said, the passing offense is actually slightly better than it was last year.
Though. Statistically, just statistically.
Yeah. Well, Devontae's having a great season.
Yeah, but isn't it? You know what I mean? But like, it's not like they've done anything philosophical to improve the passing offense.
No, it's the same. It's still a shitty passing offense.
Yeah, it's still a shitty. They got a couple better numbers this year. That's about it.
But the fact that people think this is new is mind-boggling to me. This has been going on for a long time. And then comes the assigning of blame, because everybody wants to blame.
Exactly. That's where I was going next. Not blaming somebody, but asking you where you think AJ sees as the blame, or where you think AJ's frustration lies. Many people speculate it's the offense, it's Kevin Patullo, it's the scheme, it's Nick Sirianni's risk-averse scheme. Others will insinuate it's Jalen Hurts, it's the quarterback, it's some of the struggles that he has with moving the ball consistently through the air. Where do you see it, John?
Well, I know people hate the ultimate team game shit because they want to tie it up in a nice tidy bow and say, this is the reason. And you can't do that because it's multiple reasons, but I think you can rank it. And it's, the effectiveness, the lack of effectiveness in the run game is the new sort of wrinkle thrown into the whole thing, which makes it more difficult even than it was last year. But as far as quarterback versus, it ain't the coaches. He said that on multiple occasions. Now, again, I shouldn't say it isn't the coaches, because it isn't the play calling. It's the philosophy. That's part of it. So that's part of coaching,
which is more set by Nick, right?
Yes. The philosophy, the over cautious philosophy is part of it, which is, so I shouldn't have said coaching, but I meant in an X's and O's standpoint. So the over cautious philosophy, risk averse, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to call it, conservative. People hate that term. So whatever label you want, use it. And then there's some angst with the quarterback not throwing the football when plays are open. And you see it every week, all these film nerds, and he's breaking open. And, I don't like that because you don't know the progression, number one. And sometimes
I struggle with that too. People watch AJ open on a screen and they're like, "Oh, good, got to throw it to him." I'm like,
exactly.
You don't know what Jalen Hurts sees.
Like they're an owl, and they can toggle back and forth with their necks, and you got a progression on each play. So I'm very cautious with that. And when something is, you try to ask as many people as possible and say, what went on here. And sometimes it's simple as, hey, the play was designed to go on the other side of the field, yada, yada, yada. But look, anybody who watches the Philadelphia Eagles, if you're going to take off the green colored glasses, the football does not come out on time far too often. So when there are, and windows in the NFL tend to be very, very small. So even big time receivers like AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, if they're open, they might be open for a click, and then they're going to close up again because of the talent of the people on the other side of the football and the best athletes on the field. If you're going to rank athletes in the NFL, the best athletes are defensive backs. So they're going to close holes quickly, especially good ones. And if you're late, you see it all the time. And take the Eagles out of it. Watch other teams. If you're late throwing the football, that's when bad things happen. If you don't throw the football, bad things don't happen, except ugliness.
Yeah. No good things happen, but no bad things happen.
Yeah.
No risk it, no biscuit, John.
Exactly. And that's where the Eagles are.
Hard to say. I can't. Hard to say. I don't feel for AJ Brown here. I mean, I know people don't like that he keeps doing this publicly, but I come on the post-game show on Monday night, and I'm like this offense sucks. It's like, if I'm saying that, how do you think AJ's feeling? You know, who's obviously believes he's worthy of, you know, boatloads of targets, boatloads of catches, and boatloads of yards because he's proven that he's that caliber of player. I mean, they throw 2 balls to him and then they throw a BS, you know, downfield pass at the end of the game, which was really barely even a target, but it was, I guess. Hard for me to disagree with AJ here because I know people will always go to AJ is selfish. I have the belief I don't think that either. I think AJ is saying this: we are not going to win the big games at the end of the year with this offense. We need to be better. And that's been my whole point when I bitch about this offense, even after a 10-7 win in Lambeau. We don't have the running game. People say January football, you need great defense. You also got to be able to run the football. We don't have that this year. We also don't have the passing game this year. Does anybody really think we're going to win a playoff game versus the Rams if you can't run the ball and you can't pass the ball? Now, hey, maybe you hope that you have those one-off games or there's one game that comes every once in a while where everything clicks, but that ain't a good strategy in my opinion.
Yeah, and the problem is they did it last year, so
yeah, but they had that running game, man, clicking for
but what I'm trying to say is they did it in an unconventional way that you're not supposed to be able to do.
Right. That's very
so now there's a tab reaction, there's a reaction. The reaction from a large portion of the fan base is, well, they did it once, why can't they do it again? And they're number 1 seed in the NFC, so they're further bolstered by that. Now, you know, if you want to go back to 2023 in the San Francisco game, what broke the Eagles, so to speak, maybe have that situation with Detroit. I don't think you're going to have that situation because your defense is good. So I think it's going to be a close game. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. I don't see anything breaking the mindset of, hey, this is how we do it. We're the most successful team in football. We get unscouted looks. Look at what people are doing to stop us. Let's stay the course. And I don't know how you change course at this point anyway, by the way. It's not like they tried that with the defense, which was the worst decision of the Nick Sirianni coaching era. Yeah, moving, not that Matt Patricia isn't a better coach than Sean Desai, because he is, but you can't change philosophies in the middle of the season and expect success. So that's more of an off-season conversation, and that'll depend on them losing. If you want them to change, that's the catch-22. You have to almost expect they lose and lose kind of ugly. And nobody wants that, presumably, watching this show. It's catch-22, man.
Yeah, I struggle with the idea that if we had a better passing offense, we would just lose more games. Like,
was it Kerr who asked me the question? Look, if you had the coaching staff locked away and holding them hostage and got them with true serum, would they rather have Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts? He asked me that question, not in the way I phrased it, but I'm trying to say, how would you get them in that, where they're being completely honest? You know, unsourced. They're not going to put their name on it.
No hesitation.
Zero hesitation. And then he asked me, which I thought was a good question, would they win more or less? My opinion, it's just an opinion, they'd win less.
I don't think so. I don't know why you say that, because you still have the defense. You still have,
because you're not being hyper focused on ball security. That's how they win, because they have the great quarterback. So they're taking chances. That leads to picks, that leads to interceptions, even to the best.
Why doesn't everybody do this, John? Why doesn't everybody just not get a high volume thrower, not care that much about passing the football, and just play this risk-averse game? I mean, the Eagles are winning games, and they're not even good offensively, passing or running.
Because how do you get people to buy in? You can't get – you see all the angst here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Mike's coming on, Mike Gill. He and I
are quick, before we get to Mike, we got a hit because I don't know who saw our our breaking news show last night. Just the news on Jaire Alexander, John. Give the people the update on that and what happened there. I just want to make sure we do it here in the Open of Birds 365.
Yeah, Jaire stepping away from the game, to get himself back to a better position, both a health standpoint and a mental standpoint. I think he's struggling with that knee pretty mightily. He's not the same player. You're talking about a former All-Pro player. That's why everybody was excited, because at one point he was one of the best cornerbacks in football. He's not that guy, and he's not that guy physically. And who knows? He got here, he practiced, he seemed happy, he seemed excited to be part of this team. Very similar to Zadarius Smith. This has been a crazy season. Zadarius was so hyped to be here, talking about how much he had left in the tank, and all of a sudden he's gone. Same thing here. He's excited to be here, and now he's stepping away. Now he hasn't retired, so in theory, maybe he, I don't know if the Eagles would want it at this point, but who knows? I'll get down there today and talk to some people. But stepping away to the game, trying to get himself right. And remember, that's what the Eagles were going to do anyway. He wasn't going to play early. The hope was to get him as healthy, get him on a good rehab plan, get him with their doctors and training staff and rehab people, yada, 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 and get him as healthy as possible. And maybe down the stretch of the season, he'd be able to contribute. That was their goal. In theory, from what he's saying, he's still going to try to do that, get himself right, but he's going to do it by himself. Maybe he's dealing with some mental health struggles. That's a big thing now. I don't know, but it was framed from a mental standpoint as well. You can't count on him. That I can tell you. So you're going to move forward. I expect him to start Ja'Cory Bennett's practice window today. And Adoree Jackson probably played his best game. It's interesting. Keely Ringo played his best game before the bye against the Giants. They went back to Adoree, who was out with a concussion. He played his best game against Green Bay. So you're getting a little bit of better play. And you throw Bennett in the mix as well. Maybe it's a mix and match situation, depending on the opponents, depending on what you need. But I think they're good enough elsewhere on the defense now that you can sort of mask that any deficiency with that cornerback too in the nickel.
All right, good stuff there. Jaire Alexander steps away. Obviously, hope everything is okay with Jaire mentally and physically. But he does step away. One super chat, and then we'll get to Mike Gill. JD says, I'm Team A.J. Brown. 700 yards is criminal. I think that's what he's on pace for. He's handling it better than I would. He should slap Hurts for every 3 throws without a target. A little harsh there, JD.
Yeah,
but
I don't think that's going to work.